Okay, now we want to consider positive and negative. When a graph is positive and negative. Other ways to write it is when f of x is greater than 0 or when f of x is less than 0. We're looking for really y values that are positive, negative. And so in that way, we're really just going to look where our graph is above the x-axis or below the x-axis. So those are the key annotations for us in each one of those scenarios. Now, let's look, where is this graph above? Well, this is going to be all of our positives up here. So just find your graph and find where it's above. That's this entire section. And so this is where we really have to use interval notation. And for interval notation, we really go from our first x to our second x. We're not using x and y anymore. We're only using x values. So how do I describe this red graph using only x values? We'll think about the start x value to the end x value here. And you can kind of line those up down on the x-axis below, but we actually have asymptotes here, which basically are the barriers. And so this graph is going to go from this point, -2, to this point, 1. So this graph is positive between -2, and +1. There's our interval notation. This is not a point, but an interval, and that actually describes our start and end in terms of x. Graph is positive there. For negative, very similar. We just look for the y values that are negative or below the axis. Here's our axis. Where is it below? All the way down here. All of these. We don't care how far down below, just that it's below. And so now let's look. Where is it below? We've got this section, which is below, and we've got this section. So I'm really marking the entire sections. Both of those are negative. Both of those are below the axis. How do I describe that? How do I describe that each one of those in particular is negative? Well, we're going to use the same kind of thing. The start and end in terms of x values only. So let's look at this first kind of section over here. Maybe we're going to call this section A again, Where is it negative? Well, we're only using x values. So from -infinity to where? Let's see, it's -infinity all the way to -2. And then there's another section that's negative, but it's a different section. It's not connected. And so we're going to use a u, and that's going to go from 1 to infinity. Notice how, again, these are only the x values. And so I went from -infinity to -2. That's below. And from 1 to infinity, that's below. So notice how, we'll call this maybe section B over here. We're describing those sections in terms of x, from where to where, and really looking at where that graph is on the graph. So we're really looking for positive versus negative, the location. You don't care what it's doing, just where it is.